Untitled in gaps between teeth. I've never seen my father cry. He's done it before. Behind hospital doors and in the men's washrooms at funerals, his spine has curled concave until there is nothing left of him to shield a family with. But never in front of me. Why is it painful to imagine... Why is it painful to imagine that our fathers were something before they were our fathers? If I ask, he might tell me that he comes from a country where the river is so clear you can drink it, where you never wake up before the sun does, a place where no one is sick yet, and farm boys like him still dream the world every night. If I ask, my mother might still remember what it's like to kiss a boy who held a song in the gaps between his teeth, fell in love with the way his red-tipped ears always betrayed him when he spoke to her. Might tell me that once my father biked 45 minutes just to hand her a rose in a plastic bag and then bolt. She kept the rose in a book. Never told him that it had wilted on the way there. I never ask. Come home, he says. I wonder if it's too late, if I have lost my mother tongue in too many foreign men's mouths. He never thinks it a waste to pray for me to gods I don't bother to believe in. Never blames me for being worlds apart with my entitlement and rapid-fire English. When I'm asked where I'm from, I do not stutter like he does. My father cannot go home. Home is a place between time, perpetually half memory. It is two ghost ships sailing anti-parallel, suspended between age and country. Home exists before the funeral. After the birth, it is laughing with all your teeth because there's no one to miss. What I mean to say is my father cannot go home, so he becomes home. How do we forgive ourselves for what our existence has stolen? I do not call. I come home too late. My father is asleep in the armchair, upright, his phone still playing old Mandarin songs. I forget why I left in the first place. Thank you.
Repro ditto. After bees. Doubles are reproductions that realize enough's enough and knock it off. Recognizing the machines of menage a trois, wishing for one echo, not an array of bodies arranged in a particular way. Meticulous lists lined up year after year, waiting for a knowing nod, full of new music. But just because there's music doesn't mean that music has to be on. Personally, I liked it more before I read it again, and the tower looked taller from far away. The sound of thousands of lifelong fans sighing, lowering their faces, rubbing their screen-sore eyes, colonizing a culture cube our internet ignored, dominating it in squatters' maneuvers. Nostalgia, Greek compound consisting of homecoming and ache or pain, reaching back to the ache or pain as memory. Memory is knockoff, and knockoff is Boris Karloff makeup. Menage a trois meaning household of three, or the first reproductions like-minded hangry frenemy. Doubles are reproductions that realize their enough's enough and knock it off. That's a terrible lie. The reproduction only wishes it could choose to reproduce. No, not sibling rivalry, Oedipal aggression, cog as saboteur, cancer cells curing cancer cells, frenemy because of need, and hangry because of resource guarding. Gardens ravaged by lookalikes, reproductions representing chanting in dog Latin, a mostly imitation meat meant to remind the eater of texture and taste. How gauche the barely affordable one bedroom reclaiming crumbling brick back from authenticity. An old city acts out for attention, but with no parent to appease, who's there to say, shh, shh, shut up? Is it only child, an unlucky child? Is music on at the moment? What's that buzzing hum? And when did the bees come back? They envy the cicada's poetic significance. Dear reader, I'm not quoting. I'm caging ideas in ditto marks so poetry isn't mistaken for fact. Bees, please, best to just come out and admit you were faking near extinction. Sitting in your cell, somber, sober. Dear reader, may I be honest with you? I am reaching back. I lost the first draft of Repro Ditto, the poem you are now listening to. I am rewriting it from memory, a homecoming of ache or pain, a household of three, me, the first lost draft, and the one you are hearing now. Nostalgic as it is, I remember originally one beast specifically. Let's call him Doppelganger. I remember mentioning a monarch. Let's call her Yeo Kasuma, dominated by tryptophobia, an aversion to the sight of irregular patterns or clusters of small holes or bumps. And in a book by Donald Winnicott, I remember reading, the fear of domination does not lead groups of people to avoid being dominated. On the contrary, it draws them toward a specific or chosen domination. I remember black-yellow beads between infinity mirrors that dubbed them, each image a fib, a sabby divvy of reverberation, an excuse deployed to avoid the self-righteous original, ostriching of authenticity cultists who are all only now learning what a face looks like. They burned Gutenberg's stupid machine. They smashed jars of royal jelly to preserve the memory of their one true queen, her beads, the perfectly cracked shards of infinity mirrors fused back together into a strained Pangea, a second faultless earth inside our own, a second earth that knows it came first and pities mimics walking surface side in a gullible glimmer, oblivious to birthing order, pleading adoption as defense, propaganda applied by principal ancestors who were trying to do what a queen would want, multiply by making masked siblings, stabbing eye holes into a portrait and sporting it around while demanding answers. I remember unabashedly playing with plagiarism, calling it appropriation to make myself sound intelligent. So of course I remember Joe Brainerd, and also I remember wanting to convey envy. I remember demanding answers from the colony, grafted branches, wisdom of the unoriginal, and yet I'm still confused about why I mentioned bees in the title of this poem, since it's all a terrible lie.
This poem kind of took up the language of makeup tutorials, which I can't do a lot of because I'm allergic to 99% of the products involved. And just as a warning, this does contain some mild body horror, mentions of racism, and a slur used somewhat ironically. Contact dermatitis. As we name the pollutants that spool out from the mines, contour the lines around my eyes, erosion tracks, skin fizzed away by irritant and rash. Highlight my rare Venetian mask, this face untreatable, Precambrian shield furrowed by acid rain. Fan brush my chronic itch with shimmer. Beautify my trace deposits. And how to trace this ancestry except by what is done to me to make my skin consumable. Cafe au lait, light cocoa, butterscotch, brown sugar, cinnamon, warm toast, old sand, ash gray, shit brown, darky, ugly spick. Brown is the itch unnameable, crass palimpsest of origins obscured by migrant love, colonial hell, a violent complexion freckling my nose. What's dirtier, my DNA, a lead-based powder, or the toxic soil I root in? Glitter me with fine ground mica, that breakable flaw in the rock, that mineral shot through with mirrors. My skin is riddled with acceptance, pores burned open to admit. State of emergence. Mid-pandemic, and a porous body travels westward to sakura blooms impatient in the bud, itching to burst. A suitcase rattling with taro, steroids, vitamins, and herbs. A body barely cauterized and hypopigmented where weeks ago cracks oozed. Here lies a cross-coast convalescent wrapped in cold cotton for skin rash, full body eruption, soaked in premature sun, afterbirth of birdsong. Must a body fly this far during the harshest warming, COVID-19 warnings, just to heal? Scarified fireweeds sprout from the left knee. That highway ditch death bloom breaks skin and leaves a body yet more open to contagion, reckless, buoyant with a second course of prednisone, and made defenseless by that medicine that keeps the eyes and throat from clamping access shut. I am compromised, biding long hours in an isolated lightscape, phototherapy, a loft bed where the moon beckons, skin charged magnetic with its tidal swell and sloth. Pull a knight of pentacles, non-binary and backlit by the rising sun. They sprout two staghorn ferns from outstretched driftwood arms. This garden love too distant when the cardinal directions cease to mean, and viral vectors bloom geometries that isolate. Let us someday call this over caution. Guide a body home and painless like an anxious lover hesitates, their salt-worn hands a soft remittance. Queer night, tend your quarantine garden until the bleak wind blows this bodiless skin shell back east to consummate our cracked embrace. With bladder rack and aloe, let us cleanse the wounds we keep.